And we're live, baby, live. It's Shooting the Shit Uncensored. You know who this is. It's the dad bod god, the bald, the beard, and the fucking beautiful Piers Austin. And tonight, my guest host, the returning, the OG, the original greaser, the Robbie, Zucco, the man with the 3 largest legs in professional wrestling. Zucco, baby, what's going on?
Hey, I love the intros. It's so good. It's actually awesome to be here as usual with you, and it's always lovely to have a nice conversation. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Excellent, man. And also we have our guest, which we're going to bring out very shortly. We got the big DAVE, Big Dave from the BDE, the big dude energy. I'm excited to have a conversation with this dude, man. Like, we've been talking in the backstage area, and like, this already has started to be a bomb-ass podcast, and these people don't even know what they are getting themselves into by tuning in, but it's going to be something amazing. But before we get into that, let's take a quick second to thank one of our amazing sponsors for helping us keep the lights going up in this bizitch, and that is healthvape.com. Health Vape is your healthy vaping alternative. All of their products, no nicotine, no addictive or harmful chemicals. They help restore your energy while giving you the vital boost you need to get through the day. And they are vitamin infused. Zucco, this is like vaping a freaking Red Bull, bro. Ooh. Seriously, check it out. Healthvape.com. Use that promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on that final purchase. Also, wherever you are finding us, we appreciate you. If you're tuning in on YouTube, please like, share, subscribe, all that good shit. Tap the red button and just tap in. If you're listening on a podcast platform, I appreciate you. Please give us a 5-star review. It helps with our analytics and helps us bring more amazing conversations to more amazing people like yourselves. Whew. This is also a free podcast. Every single week, we bring you multiple episodes. If you want to support this podcast, you can buy merch, you can send gifts, you can send on the Twitter machine, all that Twitch shit. Go for it. Every bit counts and makes us bring a better podcast out to you every single week. But without further ado, Robbie, you ready to get this bitch started?
I am. Wow, that was freaking exhausting. But let's get this fucking party started! Was that good?
Let's go with Big Dave, baby! We're live. What's going on,
let's go, boys!
Show us that double bicep.
Look
at that. Here we go.
I'm intimidated.
How are we?
I'm good, man. How are you, brother?
I wanted to say it before we got onto live as well, but I'm going to say it now. Piers, the room that you're in at the moment, the lighting situation that you're working with shines so beautifully off your head that it just complements the entire ensemble so well.
Oh, well, thank you, man. You know, it's all lighting, bro. I look terrible, seriously. No, you see me close up, great hairs, and just, you know, grizzled.
I think you're definitely top 10 all-time brothers that pull off the bald and beard, though, so I'm going to give you that.
Oh, thanks, man.
You're just naturally good.
What can I say, bro? You know, Mother Time is a cruel bitch.
It ain't cruel to you, man. She ain't caught up to you at all, brother. All right, you're looking fantastic. Quick shout out to Kevin, Jess. I know they're listening as well. I've got a couple of people listening. All right, this is going to be the greatest podcast of all time. I'm fucking gearing up already. Okay, I saw the intro clip that you guys were playing. You got a couple of big names up there: Leo Rush, Steph DeLander, and then Big Dave. Okay, that's where it's going to settle.
Well, yeah,
we're going to put Big Dave in the intro, man. I think we're going to have to. That sounds pretty Yeah, man, we'll get it going, bro. We got the party going on at the East Coast in America at 4:09 a.m. Appreciate you from tuning in, Michael. Make sure that you make the switch to YouTube because we're going to be cutting out in 20 minutes on Facebook. But Big Dave in the house, man. I'm excited to have you on, bro. Like, yeah, we got in contact last week, bro, after having after having your tag team partner on, Rickie Gilmore, and straight away, bro, like Rob, I'm gonna tell you, I messaged this dude. I'm like, hey, bro, I'm Piers. I do the podcast. I'm not sure if Ricky spoke to you. And this guy's response was, Piers, my man, fuck yeah, let's make it happen. You've had the entree. Now it's time for the main course, baby. And I was like, this is gonna be a fucking cool ass conversation.
Ricky walks to the big man can run, guys. Let's go.
Hey, that's it, man. But you know what? Like, getting into it, man, like, one of the things we covered off with Ricky last week is the quick rise that you and him have really had in the business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a couple of years in, right place, right time, right look, right attitude as well coming in. And that's something I told Rob, about, and having you on is like, these guys they got their bodies right, they got their conditioning right, then they tackled the business, not the other way around.
Yeah. And I guess that's something like, and I listened to the podcast that Ricky did. Absolutely sensational. He laid the foundation for the brilliance that I'm about to bring, if I bring it at all. But that was something that, for the longest time when we met, we were wrestling fans. We were fans of a lot of different things. And as age went on and as time went on, we said to ourselves, yeah, we're going to try and find our way into the wrestling business before it becomes something that's a little bit too late. And we've now learned that it's never too late to get into wrestling. So if you're thinking about doing it, always just get started. But for us, a lot of it kind of came down to a business mindset. And we looked at, who are the greats that have come before us, not just internationally, but, across Australia as well. What's a product that sells? What's the visual that sells? And it's, without being so cliche, it's obviously the bigger variety of people, but not just so much physically, but in the presence that they carry, right? And presence doesn't just have to be in how you're defined, but in also just how you sound, right? And how you can outwardly project. So we thought of all of those things before we had even taken our first bump, because we know that this business is sold on that, right? Because that is what the first thing someone in the audience sees. That's the first thing that they're going to gravitate to, because they haven't seen you do a wrist lock yet. They haven't seen you take a headlock, work into the international, even take a bump. But they see you as you make your entrance, and first impressions matter so much. And we realize that, and that's what we wanted to capitalize on.
That's money. That's an excellent mindset. It really is. And I wish a lot of people had that mindset coming into the business, because there's a lot of people that have joined the business and they don't understand those fundamentals of what's really important. And that's money all the way. So that's a great mentality.
And I think that was something that, and like, I know I'm going to be piggybacking off Ricky, but it's, we are so fortunate that when we found our footing in wrestling, we found our footing within various training schools. We obviously started with the Adrenaline training school, but then we found our footing within Relentless. And something that Josh, Phil, and Jake instilled in us, from that, before we even took a bump, before you even started to learn what the moves were, before you even started to do the ring cardio, it was, you got to start thinking about what are the ancillary products that make up a wrestler. And we kind of knew before we went into wrestling that that's what we needed to work on. But it's exactly that, Zuck, that there's a lot of other wrestlers and a lot of other perspectives that don't have that mindset. And they need to go to a wrestling school that's going to be able to tell them that you shouldn't even learn how to take this Hurricanrana as your first thing. As soon like 1 week in, you probably need to start thinking about what are you bringing to this industry, and thinking about what am I going to do to stand out? What does that look like? Think about the business before you start thinking about how to do the business.
Wow, that's fantastic. It's exactly what that mentality. I love that mentality about people that want to join, or that's actually just really, really refreshing to see. So that's amazing. I love that. I love that mentality. It's all money. It's all about money, yourself. It's marketing, and that's what it is. And also too, you're starting from the groundwork, and that should be the ground. You know what I mean? What you're doing is the actual groundwork. Where people just jump straight ahead and do the other stuff. You got people that come in, they don't have any physique, they got nothing, and then they try become a really great worker, and then before you know it, they're not even marketable. They don't have anything about them. They have no presence. They have no, you know what I mean? So you guys focused on that. I
Yeah,
think that's great. That's great for you guys.
I think it's a combination of our backgrounds and I think our, I guess, age and maturity before we started in wrestling. Like I think nowadays you're starting to see a lot of high schoolers that are attending schools. A lot of early 20s, late teenagers that are starting to get involved with wrestling, which is fantastic, right? If anything, if we had to redo it, we'd probably start then as well, right? And we might not have had the time and the experience that we've gained from doing various industries outside of wrestling to realize that it's not so much about what you put together in terms of a move set. It's about the peripherals, it's about the ancillary stuff. That kind of stuff we picked up through, I think, just experience outside of wrestling. And I think if we had to say that, what is one of the biggest catalysts for our success, if we want to call it that, we are our biggest critics. I personally don't think that we are doing anything amazing. Rickie and I talk about this emphatically all the time, that at least I'm genuinely surprised every single time we get positive reactions, every time we go out, and then they seemingly build and build and build. Because for us, or at least definitely for me, I look at that and I say, I don't know what I've done just yet to deserve that. I feel like there's still so much more. All I've really done is just be who I am. And it sounds, cliche, or it sounds, I guess, boasting or whatnot, but it's genuinely true. Like I haven't started to put on a character as of yet. I haven't told that story, which for me, that's what wrestling's about. I want to be able to tell physical theater. I want to get in there with a series of wrestlers and you put us in a program for a couple of months and we get to deliver something to you. And at the end of that, if you follow it along, that's why you want to watch us. We haven't been able to do that as much yet. And to me, that's why I feel like I want to give, and to still get these reactions. We're shocked to say, what have we done to deserve that? We haven't given yet.
But sometimes that's the best, like the best characters in wrestling are the ones that don't really even like, I mean, like the ones that are just natural thing. You look at, Steve Austin, prime example, as stunning Steve Austin, absolutely amazing worker, great mid cut.
Great.
You know what I mean? As soon as he shaved his head, grew out the goatee, and called himself Stone Cold and started flipping people off and became relatable and became a beer drinker, and because that's who he was. He was a beer drinker. You know what I mean? Like he's a country boy, and then he just became money. And obviously, right for him, right place, right time, right situation, right gimmick. But it sounds like it's the same thing for you guys: right place, right time, and also right gimmick.
Exactly that. It's one of the things, before I remember so vividly. I don't know if Rickie remembers it the same way, but we're at gym and we're a couple of sessions in at Relentless at this point, and we're just talking about, okay, let's start thinking about what the gimmick is. Let's start thinking about what's our team name, because at the start, before we even started wrestling, we wanted to be a tag team. We didn't go into this with the mindset to be singles competitors. I know Rickie spoke about it last week with you, Piers. It's something that we've carried across in every medium. I've spoken about it backstage with other wrestlers. I've spoken about it on podcasts. I speak about it with my own partner. I speak about it with everyone. They ask me, okay, or when's it going to happen? When you're going to fight Rickie? No, never. I never want to do it. The day that some promoter pitches it to me and they say it's the last resort option, and if I have to do it, I'll do it. Great, but then I walk away. It's done. I have no interest in this business if I'm not in a tag team. But harkening back to that, we were always of the mindset that a great wrestler is one that is themselves, but just turned up by 10%. It's not you really. It's a gimmick, but the gimmick is you. And we had that revelation at the gym when we were thinking about, what characters are we going to portray? Like, do we want to be the more solemn, or do we want to be like the big security guards that kind of just enforce upon, force their presence upon just, rookies in the locker room or whatnot? And without even kind of saying anything, we just said, no, fuck that. Like, it's, we ourselves are characters as who we are. We obviously, gel so well off one another. People kind of do gravitate to us in various social situations. There must be something to that we can bottle that essence and use it in wrestling as well. So fuck thinking about characters. Let's just be us, but turn it up a little bit. And that's, we thought, oh, like what is the word for people that are kind of a bit obnoxious, but humble inside a little bit. They have big dick energy. Oh, well, fuck it, big dude energy. So that way we can work on PG shows and PCW, right? So then that's how they came about. I cannot remember what the original question was. I've just gone on this wonderful tangent about.
No, but believe me, bro.
It's exactly that. We didn't workshop a gimmick. We like Stone Cold. It's just who he is. Great Randy Orton, obviously psychotic, but at the same time, if you've ever watched a Randy Orton interview and how he speaks about wrestling, he is a little bit psychotic with how he goes about it. He is really meticulous with it. It's him. And it's the same for us. And BDE is really fun-loving dudes that, we're wrestling because we have an athletic mindset, but we just want to go out there and have fun with it.
Yeah, 100%. You guys sound hungry, passionate, and it's exactly what it is. If you don't have fun with it, then it ain't going to be good. You know what I mean? So I'm glad you guys are doing that. That's incredible.
The day it's not fun anymore, we've decided that'll probably be it. As soon as we stop, as soon as the politics overtakes what we're trying to do out there in the ring, as soon as we start getting in our own heads and we're overthinking it and we're not actually looking forward to a booking, that's probably when we know the writing's on the wall.
Don't get involved with politics. You know what I mean? I never really have. You know what I mean? I've always brushed that shit. Whenever people, we'll have a chat about it, but nothing. You don't.
You've never tried to bury someone.
You got to try. You got to be a pro. You know what I mean? It's pretty simple. You got to be a pro. If there's things you don't like or you want to, address something, it's okay. But you have to be a pro. All that politicking, it doesn't work. And it's not good for you. Really.
But
I'm just having a look at the comments section. I didn't know we had live comments, boys. So I'm having a look at the comment stuff here. Politics kills wrestling. I got an I love you guys. Sorry to interrupt.
But you know what? That's the thing in wrestling when people are competing for those same spots. And you know what I mean? They take it at that serious level. And it's like anything, bro. Like if you're competing in any type of sporting thing or even in work in general, if you have someone at work who is like your thing, hey man, if you're going to tell the boss, I saw Dave, he turned 10 minutes late this morning. Yeah. Just little comments like that and little things in wrestling. It's like when fans think politics in wrestling, it's like, it's not necessarily someone going and saying, hey, this person's a fucking scumbag or this or that. It's more like someone going up to the booker man and going, hey, I just saw such and such over there. Yeah, they were sleeping in the corner, man. Like, yeah. And it's funny because the last show I worked with them, they were doing that as well. I saw this thing of pills they had. You know what I mean? Little fucking games that people play. Yeah, bro, burying, but not going out and actually digging with a shovel. More like fucking just pissing on the ground and making wet.
That's how you stir.
It's death by 1,000 cuts, death by 1,000 little rumors, and like we're no stranger to it. Like we're surprised that it's happened this early to us to start seeing that there's various things. BDE has said this, David said that, Rickie said that, and we've somehow caught wind of it because X person said to Y person said to Z that X person told them, and then by the way, Dave, I didn't think it was you. Fantastic. My shoot job profession literally deals with this, and it's an actual area of law that I specialize in as well. And at the end of the day, you can't, when rumor-based allegations are what they are, once they get out of hand, you'll never get to the source, right? So as soon as they're out there, you ride with the wind. The best that we can do is say, well, obviously we didn't say that. You have to trust in our brand and trust in who we are to obviously see past that. But it's exactly that, right? It's a lot of snake-like behavior. A lot of that's the petty. I'll go behind your back a little bit, go to the booker man, and hey, I heard he was saying a little bit something about you. What's he doing back in this locker room? And then snowballs start to build as they fall down the hill. We aren't any strangers to that, but our perspective to it and our approach to it is, approach us. As soon as we hear about it, we go straight to the booker. We go straight to the booker.
And that's what Rickie said last week as well. And I thought that the way that he said is like, we hear shit, we go directly to the booker, we clear it up, and then we go directly to the fucking source who's been saying that shit and lay it out to him.
I enjoy confrontation. I get paid $350 an hour to get to confront for a living. So I'm a cunt for pay. I enjoy it. So the beauty of this industry is there aren't many people, and it's like you just said, how you define politics as business. It isn't direct. It's indirect. It's I'll go to the booker rather than I'll go to you. But I don't care about that. I'll go straight to you. There's no fear for me in any of that. What are you going to do to me? Burn me in this industry, like over something I didn't say. Okay, great. Like, Rickie and I, we don't necessarily need wrestling if it's not going to be fun. We're in this business to help this business, and if this business needs to be helped because so many people are running around and they approach business by doing exactly that, then it's either we can't save it and we'll walk away, or great, we'll just try and impart our mindset to it, and then eventually maybe it'll pick on. We'll start to move on from this kind of mindset, and it'll just be a way of the past. And that's kind of what we're hoping for. But be direct with me. I really don't care. I enjoy it. I live off the confrontation.
As I said, if you're professional in the actual business, that type of stuff does not mean anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was that mindset. But one thing I dabbled on before, how do you feel? And how do you feel making $350 an hour and then $50? How do you live with yourself? Wrestling must be so passionate and fun for you, or new, or like just what is it? What is it what does wrestling do for you?
It's a fantastic question, Zuck. I don't get to answer it often. When it's that. It's exactly that. It's a passion project. It's something that I'm doing as a labor of love because 8-year-old David watched Rey Mysterio growing up and said, fuck, he's doing fantastic at it. And then 16-year-old David watched CM Punk do it. And then now David's watching the product, and now David is actually doing it. And he's saying to himself, great, I think that at some point, maybe Rickie and we could do it at that level too. So at the moment, it's a passion project. The way I separate this business, which I guess we'll call a hobby for now, right? The way I separate this hobby,
aspiring wrestler.
Like, we are professional wrestlers, and the moment that Saturday rolls around and we have a booking on that day, my mindset is 100% attuned to wrestling. I go into a complete different person, different mindset, and I'm Big Dave. And normally I'm Big Dave 100% of the time anyway, but on that day, I'm Big Dave. But as soon as the show finishes and we have finished doing what we're doing, my mind is not on wrestling anymore, because it doesn't take up the entirety of my 7 days a week. And for everyone, it shouldn't take up the entirety of your time unless it is paying for the entirety of your time. We can't allow life to continue to pass us by because we're giving so much to an industry that, let's be honest, your time is far worth more than $50 for an entire day. That isn't giving you the same back. So with that mindset, I don't get burnt out with wrestling because I don't think about wrestling Monday to Friday. It doesn't make up a single portion of my mindset those days, but it takes up 100% of my attention when it needs to take up 100% of my attention. And I don't think about anything else other than that when it comes to wrestling. That's why our product and our brand stays, I guess, if you want to call it as polished and as, if we want to call it good, right? I wouldn't call it good or great, but it is that way because when it is time
it's growing.
Exactly, when it's growing, right? But when it's time to give to that, we give everything to that.
Yeah.
But when it's not time to give to that, we do our own thing. But because our gimmicks are who we are, it all feeds into one another. You'll watch my Instagram stories or watch what I'll post online, and you're like, damn, that's Big Dave. He's in Singapore doing Big Dave things. That's random. Why is he over there? Well, I'm over there because I'm on holiday, right? But that's also Big Dave on holiday too. Fun fact about Singapore, I have only taken one bump this year so far, and we've worked, I think, 2 matches. Well, at least I've worked a singles match, and we worked Wrestle Rock so far. And I've only taken one bump, and it's been in Singapore in a training seminar that I did with Aman at Grapple Max at one of their training schools there. And I think that's just a fantastic 2023 fact for everyone so far.
Mate, like, considering it's February and you've had 2 matches and you didn't take a bump in one of them.
I'm not. Look, no one should be proud of that, right?
That's Hogan level greatness, brother.
You should do veteran every night of the week. Okay, don't take me as the example of brilliance there. All I'm saying is, as a fun little stat for people to think about, to put on your bingo card of 2023, Dave has not taken a bump so far, and we're almost at March. And you know what? I'm going to work my damn hardest to see if I don't take a bump for the rest of the
I love
month.
it. Less is more. It's fantastic. Yeah, it's exactly
Less is more.
But I feel like what you were saying, like, you know, and even we have Marky Boy in the comments saying detachment is so important. And you know what it is? Because like at the peak of like, and I think I've said this to you, Rob, like when I was running the podcast network, you know, 7, 8 different shows I was like producing plus my own, where it was like every day I was either talking to wrestlers or planning something with wrestlers and then doing shows on the weekends and stuff like that. Like I literally had no time. I was like burnt out from it to the point where I was like, fuck, I don't even like this anymore. I don't like podcasting. I don't fucking want to watch wrestling. I just, you know what I mean? By the time away, I was just done. And as soon as I stepped back from shit, just did my own podcast, you know what I mean? Like watch less wrestling and, you know, stuff like that and focus more energy on other areas in life. I started to enjoy this more. I started to enjoy wrestling
energy.
more. Sorry?
Big dude energy. That's what it was, right?
Damn right. Damn right.
But that's where you need to put it though. Like sometimes you need to sort of, you only have certain amount of energy in your day to really sort of put out to things, right?
Yeah.
And if you focus too much on the one thing, other areas in life start failing. If you're focusing on wrestling all the time, then work may start to fail. You're focusing on work too much, your personal life starts to fail. And it's like all this thing, it's finding a balance.
Yeah. And that's something that Rickie and I, before, but literally as we were discussing just going to a training school like years and years ago, we had lived lives of ourselves before we started getting wrestling. Wrestling never took up any part of our time at that point in time, and it barely takes up time now for us as well. But it was the one thing that we said, well, we're going to need to hold on to. We can't let wrestling take up our time, no matter how big that we get. And I guess last year was probably, and granted, we've only been in the business almost 2 years. We haven't had, I think we're about 1 year and 8 months in or something. June is probably when we celebrate our 2 years as actual, like from our first match. Last year around October was when we had a true test of separating the wrestling from what we were doing in our personal and professional lives, because we had, I think it was around October and November, every single weekend we had something planned, and every single weekend it was a significant kind of match because it related to stories that we were telling for the last couple of months, whether it was NCW, PCW, DMDU, WrestleLock. We had a variety of different shows on during that time. And before we got into wrestling, we made a promise to ourselves and said, at most, we're going to limit our bookings to 2 a month. That way, the rest of the other 2 weeks in a month, they're for us, because the weekends are for our family, weekends are for our people. You know, we still have friends and family, but we will give wrestling 2 weekends. And we came to an agreement and said, look, this is a really, I guess, unique position for us to know that we're desired so much by these companies that they want to use our product and they want to bring us onto their shows to be able to deliver a product for them, that we can't abide by this rule. And we made that certain concession. And, you know, depending on what day that you might ask us about how we feel about that, we might turn around and say it was probably one of the smartest things that we've done, because we felt so passionate about wrestling and we never actually got burnt out despite doing 10 weeks in a row of bookings. But, you know, depending as well, there's some days we look at it and say, well, we actually kind of missed a lot during those 10-week periods where there were weekends that we gave up. I managed to get a weekend off for my birthday during that time where we didn't actually work. We didn't work the Friday, but we had the Saturday. No, we had the Friday, but we didn't work the Saturday. So we made a concession there. But, you know, it's one of those things that we sacrificed and said, no, we're in quite a unique position. But that's a rarity for us to turn around and say we're going to not detach so much, because it does lead to burnout. And that's something that we look at our perspective and where we slot in with the business and, you know, the things that we're doing. We don't want to burn out because of the fact that we're oversaturated or the politics gets in the way, because we want to be able to be here for the next 4, 5, 6 years, however long the Australia wants us, or however long wrestling wants us.
Do you think, like, going international, like if opportunities came, like, I don't want to say get offered contracts or anything like that, but like if opportunities came for you guys to go overseas, is that a thought that you both would entertain? Because you both seem like you both have outside careers that are take up a lot of your attention and time as well.
It's obviously we'd entertain it. like to answer that question as simply as possible, we'd entertain it, obviously. But entertaining that comes at a lot of expense for Rickie and I. As you just said, like we both have significant professional lives outside of wrestling. For me in particular, I would need significant notice in advance to be able to take off just a couple of weeks from my shoot job, let alone a month or 2 months if we were to do some kind of tour. Not that it's impossible, it's just that it would require so much more planning that would be like, what does the cost benefit analysis look like there for us? Do we want that exposure internationally? 100% that we do. 100%. If there was a contract put in front of us today from any kind of company internationally that could support a standard of living that would allow us not to work for our current jobs, then yes, without even blinking an eye, we most likely would sign right then and there. But the reality of this business, the reality of professional wrestling as a whole, is that unless you're giving to the international scene, unless you're doing those tours like that, you're probably not going to ever get that contract that gets slammed in front of you like that. Especially if there's two of you, right? I'm not too sure what the tag team scene and the desire for a package looks like internationally. I'd love to know, and I'd love to be able to test that. And if there was ever an ability for us to do it, we 100% would. It would just need to make sense for us, because time is slipping away for us, I guess, a little bit. We're starting to head towards aspects of our personal lives that will start to root us a bit firmer in our roots wherever we're going to lay them, right? So, we're starting to talk about establishing families, committing further into communities and stuff like that. That window, it's not closed, but there is a reality to how wide that window is for us.
Yeah, 100%. And then, once you do start, families and stuff, that's another added thing in, as well, that, it takes into consideration for your time in the business as well. You know what I mean? Like it's
not impossible. Like none of this is impossible. I hate the word impossible. Anything can be done, right? But it's just that we're so pragmatic with our approach that it really is a cost benefit for us to go, okay, could we do international with the salaries that we're on, with the money that we have, and not affect us 100%, right? It's really not a financial thing. It is purely a time thing to say, can we justify the time expense away from what we're doing for a month to go over there and test the waters a little bit? And like, I'm sure that there are companies in America, Japan, Mexico, UK that would love to have us, and that we would love to be there. And if we could ever put in a calendar where it's like, okay, we're going to go over there for a month, and we know every single weekend is going to have something, rather than go there and then find something, that would make the decision a little bit easier for us as well. But we're not even 2 years in yet. So if we had those, I'd be surprised.
Babies.
How did you find wrestling Akira when he was out here with ICW? No holds barred, and also like wrestling a death match, because I asked Rickie, and Rickie was kind of like, I'm kind of one and done on like the deathmatch wrestling thing. How did you find it? Because it's almost like it's a different beast altogether, deathmatch wrestling,
right? Look, Rickie and I share the same thoughts. I have a love and affinity for deathmatch wrestling. I do. DMDU as a company helped us get our footing in the door within professional wrestling in Australia, alongside Mayhem, obviously, as well, in the school that we were with Relentless. Without them, we wouldn't have the exposure that we have, right? So that much is clear. We have infinite love for Joel and the crew there. Because of that, we got our first exposure. At least I definitely had my first exposure to deathmatch wrestling. I never knew it was something that existed in this beautiful, beautiful sport that we have. And it's a fantastic subgenre because there's just so much passion to it. So I have such an affinity for it. Our mindset with deathmatch wrestling is, and it was definitely the mindset that we had when we started to first get approached about wanting to do, and we got approached literally probably the first show that we did with DMD. It was like, okay, when are we doing death matches? And for us, because we were so green, we just said, maybe a couple of years. Wait until we can properly do a hurricane off the top rope first and comfortable with that. But our approach with deathmatch wrestling is that violence is used to drive something that you're telling, right? And violence is something that you escalate with. If you started with something heavy-set violence, then you're essentially telling the most passionate aspect of whatever you're talking about. And then where do you go from there? So with that mindset, to us, deathmatch wrestling is what it would be the penultimate or conclusion of something that we're trying to talk about. And because of that, it requires an escalation. And that was our mindset with deathmatch wrestling was, we're not just going to start with it. We're going to get our footing in with everything else that we can possibly do and establish ourselves as, I guess, amateur Greco-Roman, style professional wrestlers before we start to explore, that level of violence, right? And when we wrestled Akira, that was the story that we told. And I'll talk about this in a second, how Akira goes about planning a match. That itself is a fantastic fucking journey, just to watch that happen. But when we started to put together that experience, it was, well, what's the story here? And I don't think that's something that's discussed a lot when it comes to preparing a lot of death matches, or at least some of the ones that we've seen. What are you trying to tell with what you're doing here? And if your answer to me is, I'm just trying to hurt the other guy with as much light tubes as possible, then what have you done differently to the match that happened 3 matches ago? Right? Well, what have you done differently to the match that happened last week? For us, the story was, we have never done a death match or have been a part of a match that is this violent, because we have never had to get this violent in any of the fights that we've had. That makes them the deadliest people that we've ever versed. And in order to overcome you, we need to steer into that violence and possibly explore something that we've never done or had to do before. And we hope that was the kind of story that we tried to put in with that match, was that we tried to wrestle them. And the moment that we realized that wrestling deathmatch wrestlers wasn't going to work against them, that was when we started to say, here's a light tube. And we made one light tube seem so significant that eventually escalated into chairs, into bundles, into, I took a gusset in the head, probably the most painful thing I've ever done. And it was a series of escalations to say that we required violence to beat violent people. Now, Akira putting together a match, this brother is like a whirlwind of creativity. Working with Akira is probably both the most chaotic and most fun thing I think I've ever had to do. The man just comes in there with sequences and he throws them out there. Yeah, he goes, okay, well, I'm thinking, all right, we'll do this, and how about at some point in the match we go do this and this. We haven't even worked out the standard stuff at this point, right? How are we starting? How are we finishing? What's the heat shine and comeback look like? There's none of that. It's sequences. And he goes, okay, it'd be cool if we did this spot that kind of looked like this. And Rickie and I sit there and we're just like, brother, what are you talking about? What's the shine, man? What are you doing? And it wasn't until we had all of the sequences out there, and it's about 40 minutes before we're meant to go curtains, before the brother, fantastic man, turns around and goes, all right, now let's talk about how we're going to get into the shine here. All right, now let's talk about how we're going to escalate and get to particular points. And that's where we all started to collaborate. But his mindset with wrestling, fantastic. I like it. He's got infinite success in front of him, Akira.
Yeah. I mean, as far as like going in there, like when you had the match, was there like stipulations going into the match that it was going to be a death match, or was it like gimmickly supposed to be you just having a regular match and then it turns into that?
No, it was marketed as a death match. It was something that we definitely signed on in advance and knew that we were doing a death match.
Oh, no, I wasn't saying that. I was just saying, like, was it sold to the fans as a death match before the show, or was it like a regular match? And then, like, now
it was. I think it was sold as a death match. I think it definitely was marketed as a death match. And that's why I can't remember if there was any fanfare regarding it. But a lot of whatever was the draw for that match was that this was BDE's first death match. How are they going to go up against two of possibly the best that this scene has in Callum Butcher and Akira, right? Like that was what it was. On one side, it's two guys who are currently your tag team champions in a deathmatch company. Now they're going to have to actually have a death match. Can they do that, right? And that with that right there, you had a story. And that was all we really wanted to do when we went into that match, was to make it a BDE match, right? And when I say BDE match, we obviously hit our stuff and get it all in, but turn it into a death matchy. But we wanted to tell something to the crowd, right? Like, even if it's something so subtle as being, these guys don't know what the fuck they're doing in deathmatch wrestling. them getting hit with a light tube is going to hurt them so much more than if someone else who's done deathmatch match league is going to get hit with a light tube. And that's what we kind of needed to impart. So as soon as we did take that, and as soon as it became a death match, it escalated really quickly, because that's when we looked our most vulnerable. And if we go back, and we've watched it a few times since, and that's, I think we deliver quite well on showing that as soon as it's no longer in our control, we are in dire panic. And there's a lot of desperate situation moments and us acting completely out of character because we're starting to steer into this mindset of, oh no, wait a minute, this is a death match. Like, how do death match wrestlers wrestle? So we need to become that. But yeah, that's what it was marketed as. This was BDE's first death match. We're saying, you never say never. I know Rickie said that, and it's something that we'll say again. You never say never. It's something that I like to look at death matches as, it's a special match. It needs to be something that, if BDE is going up against a particular tag team, yes, we are currently the champions, so there can always be the need for a death match, right? Like there can always be a logic to have a death match when you're fighting BDE, just because it's a death match. You can always use the story of, you're not death match wrestlers, so when I fight you, I want it to be a death match, right?
It could just need to be told right.
Story wise.
We need something.
Right. Exactly. That's my only issue with that. But that's my issue with all pro. It just needs to be told right. If something's told right, it's amazing. You know what I mean? How did you cope after you've having those matches? How did your body feel? How did were you battered? Were you shaken? Were you like what did I just do? How was your mindset?
The adrenaline is a funny thing, boys. I don't know how often you've gotten yourself in a particular situation where the lights go out in your head and you're running blind, and there's a whole sense of a person in there that you've never seen before. It's a funny fucking thing, man, but God, is it a fickle thing too. In the match, we bumped on glass, we bumped through Legos, gusset plate to their head, blood, sweat everywhere. I don't recall feeling a single thing in that ring as it was all transpiring. Not a single thing. I took like three suplexes on Legos, safest bumps I've ever taken in my career.
Really?
I took a brain buster. I didn't feel any of that. Like, adrenaline is a fantastic thing.
You don't feel it
Monday, when I had the shower later that night, and I realized I had completely cut up my calf because for some reason my boots just didn't do a good enough job of covering me. When I went out to brunch the next morning to de-stress before the work the next day, my wrist was killing me. My head was still kind of oozing out a little bit of blood because gussets don't really scab when they're just in the hairline. My body suffered for a little bit after that, and because of that, did we turn around and say, "Fuck, is there a new level of appreciation for what Joel Bateman, Callum Butcher do on a fucking weekly basis? How do they do that?" I'm hurt after just that, so I can only imagine how they feel.
Well, I think some people are just, you know what I mean, like deathmatch wrestling.
Man, you're built different for that shit. And look, we're not built different energy when it comes to deathmatch wrestling, man. Okay, let's be honest.
No, my take is you're definitely built different to do deathmatch wrestling, but I feel like for the most part, when you see deathmatch wrestlers, and I've said this before, it's because they probably can't get booked to do anything else. And like that's kind of, and I mean, I'm not trying to shit on people, and I'm not shitting on the people you mentioned at all. I'm talking about as a whole, because you look at a lot of these deathmatch wrestlers, and a lot of them don't look like they even go to a gym and do all that sort of shit. I'm a fan of deathmatch wrestling, but I've seen it like over the last 20 years. It's changed.
And that's my point. I'm not against it at all. If it's done right, I'm happy to do it. But a lot of times when I do see it, as you said, I'm seeing guys with their footwork off, their timing off, the way they position themselves, their feeding, the way they move. It's like, well, have they been trained? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah. I scratch my head and go, and then they turn around. It's an art. I get it. It's an art. But, you got to be an artist to create the art. You know what I mean? So you got to do the fundamentals. I remember back in the day, and I used to watch so you had Lobo in Australia, you had Spike Steele, Mad Dog, And the one thing that they did do, and this is really important, and I give props to them, is they learned how to work first. Their timing with all that, I remember Spike Steele and Lobo had this incredible this incredible match, and they were going through tables and everything, but it was just so well timed, and the way they moved and fed, so it wasn't just one big bloodbath. It made sense, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So look, it can be done right, but you gotta train yourself from the bottom up, learn your fundamentals, and then do it. As I said, a lot of the times I see a lot of guys just hitting each other. It's like, okay, is there? And then you see their movements. They go, well, they haven't really been taught how to work. You know what I mean? So that's the way I look at it. That's what disappoints me about it. But apart from that, if it's done right,
it's
if it's done right, it's great. But if any match is done right, it's great.
Yeah.
There's different types. I get that, and there's room for everything. But you can't defend something if you're not trained. You know what I'm sorry. Yeah, people aren't trained. They're trying to defend a product. It's like, oh, hang on a sec. Oh, you can't shit on that product. But hang on a sec. I'm not shitting on the product. I'm shitting on what you do, because what you do isn't the way it should be done. Teach yourself how to do certain basic fundamentals, and then go do that. You know what I mean? But a lot of it's not done. They've just gone for the high spot, and they never learnt, basic wrist lock. You know what I mean? So that's
brother.
That's it. So that's my thing on deathmatch. I don't have like a quality of which match is great, because there's so many matches out there that you work if it's done right. So, and we all know that.
Yeah, and you preaching to the choir, Zuck. That's and we're not going to pretend like we're veterans in this business. We're not. We're not even 2 years in yet. But it's exactly that. Like, we're not. I think the specificity there is that you're not shitting on the subgenre, right? You're not. It's not like you're saying I am a science fiction guy, but I fucking hate fiction, right? It's not. You're just hating some fiction that's written, right? But you don't hate the genre, right?
I love horror films, but some of them fucking suck. You know what I mean? And some of the acting in it is shit, and I'm like, oh my god, like it's the same thing. You know what I mean? It's not that I hate that, because I watch all types of movies. It's just
exactly
one of those
that.
things.
You're not hating the subgenre. You're hating a product that's being developed.
No, and it gets misinterpreted to the people that get defensive, and the ones that get defensive, I bet my balls they can't fucking work properly. I bet my balls. See, if you knew how to work properly, it wouldn't be an issue, because I can do different matches as well. I've done cage matches, whatnot, simple matches, ladder matches, but I don't defend all that. I don't need to defend that. I defend wrestling. It's wrestling as a whole.
Wrestling, good.
I defend that. I don't go, oh, you're shitting on deathmatch. Well, no, you know what I mean? Yeah. I shit on what you do, because what you do doesn't work. Or if it does, you need a lot of work, to fix your issue. So it's just, I've always been a student of the game, a person that actually watched it, watch all the small stuff. And when people don't get that footwork right and the feeding right and all that kind of stuff, then they haven't been taught properly. And that's one thing that disappoints me. But that's general with all wrestling. You know what I mean? It had nothing to do with just deathmatch. So.
Yeah. And I think just to kind of piggyback off that, it's like, I love that point, because it's something that Rickie and I have spoken about so much, and that when we started training, many, many moons ago, we turned to each other and said, there are going to be companies that are going to look at us and say, yep, you've got such a nice look. I don't care that I haven't seen you taking a bump yet. I'm going to put you on a show because I just trust that you can do it. We were quite vocal to our coaches. This is such a big shout out to Relentless, that we were so vocal to them that we don't want to do a show until we think we're ready to do them, but until you think that we're ready to do them, right? And whatever you define as ready, because we trust them so much as coaches, we knew that their definition of ready was, you knew the fundamentals. If you got lost in a match because the person and partner that you're teamed up with has forgotten a particular situation, what do you do? And this is where I'll both give credit, but also a bit of criticism to deathmatch wrestling, is those that are trained in doing it, as a natural byproduct of that subgenre of wrestling, is a lot of things can go wrong, and if they do go wrong, more often than not, they do. Right? A particular glass might shatter, or a chair might not be in the right spot. You might lose something, and then you have to work on the fly. And if you're not well trained, if you haven't got the fundamentals, if you don't know what this is, then you don't know how to work the rest of the match. And then you resort to the knowledge that you do have. And if that knowledge isn't sound, then it's not going to be a sound session to the rest of the match. So before we even had before we even decided to do that first match against Mile High Club, it was very much a situation of, are we completely sound in our fundamentals? Or are we not ready yet and we just know how to do the basic back, front bumps and all that kind of stuff? But we wanted to be a bit more prepared. We wanted to be able to sit there and go, yep, we can do that. We can work on we can go the bumps, rolls and everything like that. We can do the up and overs. We got the 10 minutes to 15 minutes of ring cardio. Yeah, fuck you, Connor. But are we able to go into that ring with those boys? And if it gets to a situation where we're a little bit lost, we know exactly how to go on the next position. Or if they call a spot on the fly like that, do we know what that spot is and we know how to safely take that bump? Are we that level of confident yet? And that's when we knew we were ready. Connor, you can go fuck yourself again.
Was that a personal? Is that what
that's Rickie?
Huh?
No, Connor is very different to Rickie.
Oh.
Rickie, I have all the time in the world for. Rickie is a very good personal friend of mine. Connor Futures is a cuck.
All right, fair enough. But like, I feel like what you just explained, like how you wanted to be ready for your first like match and telling your coaches to be ready, and like, guys I've seen coming up, like the young guys that are trying to break through, they haven't even had one like training session yet, and they're thinking about their gimmick. They want to get, hey, can I get on the card? You're gonna put me over? You know what I mean? Oh, who am I gonna work? You know what I mean? Like all this sort of stuff where like you can just see it, and it's like, man, you like, you know what I mean? I'm not a wrestler, and I say this all the time. So it's like, I don't really give advice to people, but I'm 40 years of age and I'm around this and I see it. And it's just like, sometimes I just want to go, slow down, loved one, slow down, bro. You know what I mean?
You are not 40, bro.
Yeah, bro. 41 this year, man.
Look at you.
Oh, brother, you are holding 40 like a fine wine, man. You are 29 at best.
Oh, wow.
As we log off, we're going to
keep talking like that. You're going to get booked on the podcast more often.
Right. No, we're going to talk about your skincare as soon as we wrap up here, brother. I need to know what you're doing, man. Whatever kind of face mask you're using is working. I wonder if you go all the way to the back too. Is that a bald trick? Like when you use your face there?
As well, so don't you worry.
But like I feel like that's the as we get back onto it though, like a lot of people that are breaking in, Rob, that you even see as well. I've seen you give advice to people and they don't sort of take it in. Now you have a conversation with someone like Big Dave, who's still relatively young and green in the industry, even though like has done some amazing things with his tag partner. How do you as a veteran hear what he said during this podcast, comparing to some of the other things and the ridiculous shit that we hear from some people in the same situation or even just behind his time frame in it? But how do you see the difference here from what you've just heard?
Well, that's the expectation. He's where he should be. You know what I mean? It's the mentality they have is it's an entertainment marketing mentality, and that's the business that we're in. We're in the entertainment business. First and foremost, yeah, it's a wrestling side of things, and it's great to learn the art, and it's fantastic. But everybody knows that what sells is the entertainment and the money side of things. So. And they've got a good head on their shoulders. Like they understand marketing and they understand what will work. So like so far and for 2 years in the business, that's a plus. A lot of people, as I said, they're not even near that. They try and learn a few moves and they're just talking about going over, but they're not once thinking about what they can bring to the table. They're not once thinking about, oh shit, how am I gonna make wrestling better? How am I gonna make this gimmick larger than life? How am I gonna make my character, work? It doesn't get thought of as much. So when you do have that mentality, it's a winner. That's for sure.
Zuck, you've just made my heart flutter. Zuck, I keep saying Zuck. My apologies, Zuck.
Zuck, nobody.
Throw the questions in the comments, bro. We'll get to them. Fire them away.
Just before we jump into that, just to kind of like one last point to that. like it makes me feel so good to know that that's something that is recognized, like someone by the Zucco that has spent so long in this business, and then that's the mindset that we have, because we speak to so many wrestlers now and so many companies now, and it's all about, okay, what's your high spot, or what are you doing in this match? Oh, I'm hitting the Tower of Doom. Oh, I've got this 6-spot plan where I'm going to do the Hurricane off the top rope. Or I'm going to go onto someone's shoulders and dive to the outside. Like there's so much where we're just focusing on what the moves are, and you can ask Rickie, and Rickie's very much the same when it comes down to this. When we put together a match, we don't talk about the moves until the end. We don't talk about, okay, what moves are we hitting in this match? There's one moment that sticks out so particularly to me that I'm so proud of, and it's the match that we did with the Natural Classics at MCW when we versed them for the MCW tag belts. It was our second match there, and the story writes itself, right? Extreme hot shot upstarts trying to dethrone the longest established tag team probably that we've seen in Australia for a very long time. Right? There's so much there. There were moves in that match, right? We started the match with hitting the 3DE, right? So we started with a really hot spot. But other than that, we didn't really plan any other moves, because what we were doing is we were telling that story. And the moment that sticks out to me in that match so vividly is how we told the finish. And it wasn't a move that was the finish. It was a moment in the ring where we were looking like we were going to win. And this spot took up 30 seconds. And they had tried to use the belts to beat us. Just prior to that, we obviously reversed. I can't particularly remember the moves because the moves don't even matter. But the moment matters, where I found the belt, and it was a moment of me grabbing the belt dead center in the ring, looking at Hardcam, looking to the crowd, feeling their energy going, use it. They just tried to use it on you and going, no, we're the faces. Why the fuck are we going to do that? And throwing that belt away. And it might have taken all 30 seconds, but it felt like so long, because that's the moment. That was what we had planned, spent so much time planning before we even said, we're going to start the match with the 3DE, right? And we're going to finish with this move here, and we're going to hit this high spot. None of that was planned until we said, what's the story and how are we getting it over? And that is not discussed enough by wrestlers today. The moves don't mean shit. They are just gifts that get put up online and Twitter, and they get the reactions, but that's not what you should be remembered for. You need to be remembered for the moments and the energy that you bring to these matches.
Yeah, energy, psychology, all that simple, detailed stuff, playing with people's emotions. That's what it's all about. You know what I mean? It's not just high spot. I've seen perfect matches. I've seen perfect tag matches, and they're so perfect to the point where they got fuck all reaction. I'm not sure I don't know if you've seen Dave and I. We tag as the original greasers and whatnot. We barely say shit. You know what I mean? We barely say deadly squat to each other. You know, when we're out there, we have time. We're enjoying ourselves, and we are there. You know, whether we're going over or not, we're going there to make them look good. We're going there to make them look like $1 million. So I don't give a shit what you want to do to me. I'm not going to go fucking do 1,000 things to you. You know what I mean? I'm going to make you look good. So, you know, that's I think the mentality people should have. You know, it's a giving mentality, and that's what pro wrestling is. The ones that the best workers out there, they give. You know, you think about it, or they all just give, and then they realize, oh shit, the more you give, the more you make them look like $1 million, the more it makes you look good if you win.
But you know what? There's also there's sometimes too much giving, where it's like you see on shows big dudes, you know, wrestling smaller dudes, and they're like bumping all over the ring for a guy who's 5'5" and this guy's 6'6". Hey man, I'm 5'6", bro. If I'm gonna have a match and some guy like that's gonna bump for me, bro, I'll fucking take it. But like from a big guy, like I feel like that sort of takes away from the mystique of a big guy.
Yeah, that's a psychology issue, and that also too is one thing that's almost like a lost art. I mean, there's so many people that can teach you it, but a lot of people don't really think about, you know, the importance of it. And when they do, it comes off fantastic. You know what I mean? So,
Dave, how do you feel like? Because you and Rickie both big guys, you know, wrestling a lot of guys, you know, around. How did you deal and sort of navigate around like some of the smaller tag teams? Do you have tag teams going, yes, we're going to hit you with this thing, we're going to hit you with this thing? Like, you find yourselves having to go, nah, brother, that's not going to work for me?
Yes and no. Like, it's where, and this is like a call out to any perspective that's currently training at the moment. We need more tag teams. And Rickie said it last week, and I'm going to back it up. I'm fucking sick of versing Murdoch. I'm done with it, all right? Because he's half my damn size, and yet I bump for the brother more than I bump for anyone else in this fucking business. But because of that, we find there is a lot of us turning around and going, yeah, I get it. Your move is a forearm that I should bump to. But have you thought that maybe before you lead into that forearm, that maybe you hit the rope a little bit, go for my chop block, that way you get me down, and then go for the forearm? Have you thought of that? Right? It's a lot of us kind of workshopping around what they're trying to do. And like a lot of the matches that we have had over the last almost 2 years, we have obviously been the bigger oppressors, but still had to maintain the babyface perspective. It's kind of only recently have we started to establish verse up against some probably bigger, if not, or same size, if not bigger, talents. Like, we've just recently worked programs with Kava and Robbie Thorpe. Like, they're massive guys. I'm the same size as Kava, but Thorpe is a genuine fucking 6'3" brother that, if he wasn't in wrestling, he would be a model. Like, it's like we're now starting to see that there are collective tag teams that are giving us something to work with. But it doesn't mean that we can't work with the smaller tag teams. It just means you've got to be a bit more creative, right? Because there was still logic to when Rey Mysterio could verse Great Khali. He just needed to work around it. It's still the same way when Rey Mysterio won the world title. It's not like he hit them with strikes to win, right? He chopped them down. And so you can do that. And matches that we have had with smaller talents, comparatively to us, not that they're small, but just that, we're obviously just a bit bigger, is we work around that and go, yeah, look, that move probably won't work in that situation. But if you lead up to it a bit smarter, we can. But it's probably one of the biggest criticisms that we've experienced so far has been exactly that. Like, why are you, and we hear it from workers more than we do fans, is, why are you bumping to some of their moves, man? Like, why are you doing that? Like, you shouldn't be bumping to some stuff like that. And we just shrug it off and we go, look, it's the byproduct of what we have to work with. I've particularly got no issue with it. I barely bump as it is. It's most likely going to be Rickie that does the bumping. So if he flags it a bit more, maybe it'll happen less. But it's always a give and take, like we were saying before. But there's a bunch of questions in this chat. I'm keen to go. Are we going to do question time?
100%. We'll go to the first one. So says, Big Dave, your thoughts on managers in wrestling going back to Hardy Money. I feel he was the last good manager in wrestling, but we don't see him anymore.
Hardy Money.
Never heard of him.
So I think that's APW. My thoughts on manager, I love, because wrestling isn't about the moves. Like, it always comes back to that. So a manager, if you have a mindset where I'm just going into wrestling because I'm just here to watch two guys flip around, obviously you're not here to watch the manager in wrestling, because they probably don't play the most important role to you. But I don't think that. I don't think that way. Managers, to me, they're a psychological tool to drive narrative, right? And it's whatever you need them for. But more importantly than that, they're there to drive their people, right? What is Paul Heyman to Roman Reigns, right? Roman Reigns is nothing without Paul Heyman in this current run. Let's be honest, right? Roman Reigns has developed himself as something of a product now, but he needed a manager. Managers can elevate. Does BDE need a manager? I don't know. I don't think so. Managers, if you wanted to break it down to its most binary, if I had to sit there and go, well, why do I need a manager in this current scene? It's probably because they don't know how to talk. Probably because they don't have a look. Probably because they don't have a look, they need some further assistance. I probably look at us and go, well, we don't fit into any one of those categories, so therefore we probably don't need a manager per se. But that's just one element of what a manager can bring to this business. I think managers have, they play an integral role as much as the referee plays an integral role in a match, right? But we're not sitting here saying that the referee is not important, are we?
No,
exactly.
Not at all. I'm a big supporter of managers in wrestling. I'm putting that out there because I am one. But I think
you got our digits, Piers, man. Look, if you ever think that you can join Big Dude Energy, man, you got something you can take. Look, if we ever go a little bit bad and we start to turn the heel a little bit, bring you in.
Hey, man, there you go, man. I'll give you my number after the interview. But we got a couple more. One we've got, which is from Marky Boy's like fired off a bunch of them. So we'll get one more from Mark. Want to make here you go. Do you have any? Do you have and Rickie? Fuck. Do you and Rickie have any planning? But I can't even. Sorry, man. Do you and Rickie plan on bringing basketball jerseys out? Would love to wear a BDE basketball jersey. Are you bringing out some basketball merch?
Look, I'll just frame that as: are we bringing out merch? Yes, we need more merch. We have not introduced new merch since we basically started wrestling. So we actually have a design for an NBA basketball jersey that we've been sitting on for a while now. That I think we actually do have it on a shirt, but we have put it onto a jersey itself as well that we've yet to debut. The entrance psychology of BDE, we're currently rocking the NFL jerseys, right? That's our current walkouts. We have a hockey variant as well, right? The mindset is what we thought we were going to do was with every major sporting situation that was going to come about, we'd have obviously a BDE variant of that. So NFL, when we debuted them, it was I think it was just after the Super Bowl when we were starting to talk about going into the NFL season. The hockey was big at the time. We've got basketball, so obviously playoffs is probably when we'll start to debut something basketball related, right? We're thinking we want to do golf. Next, so obviously when the Masters are on, like there's so many different nice styles.
Work every gimmick, brother. I love it.
Baseball is hot right now, right? Some of the baseball fits are real tight. We've got thoughts on Facebook, so we'd love that the stripes. We're thinking the Yankee stripes, but in just a general answering of merch, that's something that if we had to be really honest and really critique ourselves, we speak about how much that we've done our research and how much we give to everything outside of wrestling. That's probably the one thing that we've have a bit of an oversight on, and we haven't given enough attention to, has been the merch. And look, it's costed us, right? There's been so many situations where fans have turned around and gone, "Oh fuck, I'd love to buy your stuff," and we have to turn around and just go, "Oh, shit, like we've really only got the basic BDE shirt." But it's by no fault of anyone's other than ourselves that we just haven't gotten in touch with designers. We haven't put aside time to go, yep, maybe we probably should need to start thinking about the merchandising now of the brand. Right? We've done everything else, but it's just the merchandising that I think we need a bit more time on.
There you go.
I think that's what JXT probably does the best, actually. If we had to give one more shout out, I know the brother always watches. He is by far the pinnacle of the student of the game when it comes to this stuff. He does everything extremely well. In like his marketing, he's not even wrestling at the moment. He's obviously nursing an injury, but he is at the forefront of everything that is happening in this business in Melbourne at the moment. Like you can't go onto social media and not see that brother's face on there. He is doing the marketing so well.
JXT is such a smart dude when it comes to the business as well.
Like I
love having conversations with him because you talk to him, he's so passionate, but what he's saying actually makes sense as well. And that's the thing, when you talk to someone who's passionate about something, they usually go on tangents, where he's very much like, we'll talk on a specific topic and get it out.
Yeah. And I think he's such a good example of someone that I think has matured through wrestling. And he'll tell you himself, I don't think he came into the business with that mindset, but because he's so switched on, he learned that this industry is not about the moves that you put together in a match. It's about everything else. So that's why, like, when we went to Relentless and we started to learn under his tutelage, Phil's and Jake's, he's the one that speaks about, no, don't worry about the moves. The moves mean fuck all, right? It's about the moments, right? And it's about what you look like. You'll learn the moves from all three of them, right? And Phil and Jake were probably a bit more focused on the wrestling, but Josh is purely focused on how you can market yourself. And that's something that I just don't think that you're going to get from any other wrestling school, right? And we're a good example of that.
100%. But it is that time of the show, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for 60 seconds with Piers. How it's going to work, I'm going to fire a bunch of questions at Big Dave, and he has 60 seconds to answer as many as he can. Brother, are you ready for me to start the clock?
Let's fucking go.
No, wait. I better actually bring out the email. All right. You ready for me to start the clock? Let's go. 1, 2. All right. Favorite song to sing at karaoke?
Pretty Young Thing, Michael Jackson.
How old were you when you found out about Santa Claus?
What do you mean?
Never mind. What has been your most proudest moment in the ring?
The fact that I get to do it with my best friend every single weekend.
Aliens, real or fake?
Real.
What is something that you enjoy but you're embarrassed to admit that you like? Kind of like a guilty pleasure.
I know scene for scene how The Devil Wears Prada plays out, and it's probably one of my top 5 movies of all time.
Okay. What did you get into trouble for most as a child?
Beating the shit out of my brothers.
What TV series do you watch over and over?
Lost.
Maths or The Bachelor?
Bachelor.
Favorite song to sing in the car?
Pretty Young Thing, Michael Jackson. Or the High School Musical soundtrack.
Okay. One has to go. Sons of Anarchy, The Sopranos, or Scarface?
Sons of Anarchy. Never seen it.
And last one, in 5 minutes' time, you are being shipped out of space. What 2 personal belongings do you take with you, excluding human beings?
Ooh, my phone and my Kobe jersey. I just saw it this time.
There you go. That has been 60 seconds with Piers. Man, that's been an hour and 10 minutes that we've sat here with Big Dave and Big Robbie Zucco.
I didn't cut out once, so fuck you, Connor.
Oh, damn. But this has been a great conversation. I think the next time we do this, yeah, fuck you, Connor. Next time we do this, let's get you and Rickie on together, and we'll do it. We'll do it right. We'll do it with the both of you next time.
You're not going to have enough time for that, man. You may as well do that on stage. Don't limit yourself to the audio medium. You need more to that.
Hey, well, you know what? Any promotioner wants me to do a live podcast with BDE before or after one of their shows, let's make it happen. We'll do that. But definitely want to get you guys back on the show. Rob, thanks for joining us. But also, Dave, where can everyone find you on social media? Where can everyone support, show some love, etc.?
You can catch me on Instagram with BDE _ the half-cast prints. Most likely on Instagram. All of our stuff is on Wrestling Merch. You can probably catch me on Twitter as well at Big Dave Ski. Otherwise, you'll probably see my name across LinkedIn. I'm most likely the opposition lawyer in the case that you're running. So, if that's the case, don't talk to me.
That's it, man. But Zucco, thanks again for co-hosting another one with me. This has been a great conversation. Thank you to everyone. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, tap the links to tap in. And till next time, we'll see you very, very soon. Guys, tomorrow night at Friday night, 1 a.m., I'm sitting down with the one and only Bin Hameen. So make sure you tune in for that one live, baby. It's going to be late and it's going to be great. But till then, take care. All the best. We'll see you soon. Peace.